Welcome to this episode of Nacoa's Lunchtime Live, a series of live interviews originally recorded on Nacoa's social media platforms live, where I interview inspiring people that have helped, supported and campaigned for Nacoa and COAs alike. And in today's episode, I speak to the incredible Ceri Walker, who is an ambassador for Nacoa, but as well as that has done some incredible things. So much so that I'm going to have to read out a list of what Kerry has achieved. Kerry is a multi-award-winning filmmaker, including films about growing up in the shadows of living with an alcoholic's parent. Her clothing brand, Dreaming of Eden, raised funds and awareness for Nacoa through her bespoke Going My Own Way designs. She's also an award-winning writer and has appeared in various magazines and radio programs to share her heartbreaking story. Kerry has also raised funds for Nacoa by organising a Million Steps Challenge, completed by an inspiring group of COA supporters. In 2019, she ran 64 miles alone in a month, 64 for the age of her mum when she died, and alone because that's how children of alcoholics so often feel. This was the first ever Lunchtime Live that we ever recorded, and it doesn't hold back on power. We have an incredible conversation. Kerry's been incredible in some of the work that she's done for Nacoa and COAs. And I think this episode is a real reflection of that. As ever, I really hope you enjoy this. And if you feel impacted in any way by what you see in the interview, then you can find help and support at nacoa.org.uk. So I'm looking at my screen. We're all live. Okay, meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. So I'm going to welcome everybody to the first ever Lunchtime Live at Nacoa's Facebook page. Welcome everybody that's watching this live. We are going to invite questions, I think, as we get going. But first of all, what I want to do today is say hello to our first ever and very poignant, because it's very special guest with us today. Who's going to be talking and sharing some things with us is Ceri Walker. So Kerry, how are you doing?
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Good. Yeah, I'm excited to be here, especially with you, Josh.
Okay, good. How are you feeling? Have you got any nerves? I saw your Instagram post yesterday where you said this is the first time you've ever done a live.
Yeah, always nerves. My heart's racing. I feel nervous. I think everything could go wrong, but I don't care either. So that's the difference.
Good.
I still get nervous and anxious, but I'm doing it anyway now.
Okay, good. So I think what I want you to do, for me and for everybody that's going to be watching this, is I want you to introduce yourself in the way that you think you should be introduced.
Okay. How shall I do this? So I found Nacoa in 2015 and started on a very long journey of sort of finding the real me once I realised that COA was a thing. Because I didn't realise that being the child of an alcoholic made a difference to my life. I think I'd spent all my time trying to move on from it and not live in the past. And I just always thought it affected my mum and not me. And I made a film for Recovery Street Film Festival. And when I won the competition, I just Googled children of alcoholics and found Nacoa. And it's just, I think, finding all your videos and hearing other stories, I realised that all these bits of me that I was trying to change were caused from being the child of an alcoholic. And it's so lovely now to be able to embrace those things and be kinder to them, because I know why they're there now, and I can kind of look at the little me and be kinder to her.
Yeah, amazing. And I've actually sort of semi-scribbled down a bit of an introduction for you, because I want to introduce you properly in the way that I think you should be introduced in terms of the person that I believe you are today. So I'm going to introduce you now. I can see you cringing, and you might cringe while I do this because I know you. I sort of know you well enough. But for anybody who doesn't know Kerry, which is probably nobody watching, because I'd imagine they all know Kerry. Kerry is an award-winning filmmaker. Kerry is an ambassador for Nacoa, as well as an ambassador for COAs in general. Kerry helps run the COAisathing support group on Facebook. If any of you don't know about that, it's a support group, it's peer-to-peer support group, and Kerry is probably the main runner, I would say, of that group now. As well as that, she also works for the Oasis project and Back on Track. So I think that's a much more fitting introduction for you, Kerry. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's pretty right. Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Does it make you feel awkward
love
hearing
that
all of
my
that?
life is. Pardon?
Does it make you feel semi-awkward hearing all of that, or are you much more comfortable with it now?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just really pleased that such a huge part of my life now is dedicated to my purpose, and that I found jobs doing it and volunteering, and now being an ambassador. That is like, I just can't think of anything more huge in my life that could have happened. It's just still amazing, and quite just, I laugh when I hear it, really, because I can't believe it's true.
Yeah, and look, I think anybody that knows you and anybody that sort of supports Nacoa will know that you becoming an ambassador is probably overdue and sort of so well deserved. So before we sort of move on today, the way that we want to try and do this is I want to try and, well, what we're going to do is start by sharing a couple of your videos that are now available for everyone that's watching, so that they know these are now available on the Nacoa YouTube channel. I'm sure Piers will be watching this, and he will link the channel in the comments. But before we get chatting, and I think it'd be a really nice place to start the conversation, I'm going to share the first video that you made. This video is called You Tell Me.
It's Understanding Mum.
Understanding Mum, right? And when did you make this video, and what did you make it for?
I made it in 2015 when my first son was born, and he was about less than a year old. Oh no, maybe more. Anyway, and I was just realising that I was grieving again for my mum. And she died quite a few years before, but after having Jude, I was getting, I don't know, I was struggling with anxiety. It was getting worse and worse, and I realised that I was just, I was missing her and having that relationship with having a child, and also I couldn't understand where our bond had gone wrong, because my bond was so strong with Jude. I couldn't work out how what had happened to me had happened. And then I saw the Recovery Street Film Festival being advertised, and I thought I'll just enter, as my husband's a cameraman, and in the film, and it was really helpful. And a lot of people use the word cathartic, and I think it was that. It really helped me work through my grief and understand why I was feeling how I was.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, and that's a great way of introducing it. So me and Kerry are gonna fall quiet now, and hopefully what you guys on the live are gonna see is the first video. This is Understanding Me.
Mum.
Understanding Mum. Understanding Me coming later. This is Understanding Mum.
Sometimes we'd go for weeks or months where Mum would become my mum again. She'd take me to school and pick me up. We'd play games together, she'd cook dinner, she would just look after me, and I'd actually feel quite secure. These times never lasted long, and then I'd come in from school one day, or even wake up first thing in the morning, and I'd hear that noise, and everything had changed because I lost my mum again. I couldn't be a child anymore, and I'd just spend my time searching. Where has she hidden it? Is it in the wash basket? Is it under the mattress? Where's the alcohol? And I'd tip it away, thinking as a child that would get rid of the problem. My mum got into a bad relationship, and he was really violent, and within about a month of marrying him, she completely changed. I think she started to drink to stop the pain. Living with an alcoholic all through my childhood, there was always this big secret that I had to keep from everyone. She'd get really irritable with me. Everything I did annoyed her, and she'd blame me for her drinking. She'd blame me for the violence, and that was really difficult to hear. The reason I think I am surviving and that I will carry on improving is because I always had my granddad, and those years with him were so stable. That's the parent I want to be. So I can see when people haven't had a positive role model, how it's quite difficult. As the years went on, Mum was in and out of hospital. Her liver was failing. She'd try and stop drinking. After a few days, things would get really bad. First of all, she'd be sick and shaking and really irritable. Then at times she'd hallucinate, and that was scary to see. I can see why she'd start drinking again. One day I came home from work and Grandad said, "Kerry, your mum's gone." Her drinking had caused her to die and miss everything that I was going to do in my life and leave me. It was almost like suicide. I think that she did love me, but the alcohol took over. That wasn't her, and I hope that I can be a good parent and it won't affect the rest of my life.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, no, don't worry. I had to unmute myself. I didn't want everybody to hear the gasps as I was watching it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God.
What?
So, I don't know how you feel watching that, Kerry, watching that back. How does that feel to you, having just watched that?
It feels strange to see me as so different. I feel like I'm on such a different part of my journey now, and I feel like I was really scared back then of what the future held with the young boy who's now massive. It's weird seeing him little as well. But yeah, it really shows sort of different steps of my journey. Definitely seeing that.
Yeah, I can't watch the videos too often. I don't think you probably realise how I don't know how they will speak to other COAs that watch them. I was scrambling thinking I'm on camera watching this, and I don't want to be on camera when I'm watching it, because it proper goes straight to the heart of, I think, me as a COA. It speaks to me in that way. And by the way, just while we're here, I want to read a couple of comments. There's a few people that have said, somebody said that you're a fab lady. Kate saying you're a fab lady. A few people have said, "Hi guys." Debbie has said, "I'm in tears. My mum was an alcoholic and my granddad was my role model. She died 5 hours ago." I think that's supposed to be 5 years ago. And then Kim Lambert has said, "Incredibly brave and inspirational lady."
Oh, thank you.
So how, just remind me how long ago it was that video sort of went live publicly?
5 years ago, I went to, just to tell you what happened, I went to the recovery street to get my award, and I couldn't even get out of the crowd. I had to sit in the audience, and they had to bring my certificate over. I then found a card in the gift shop that said, "I've made a film and you'll never see it." I framed that and I never showed anyone the film. I've got it on my wall now. I couldn't tell anyone about it when I made it. So that's the kind of different stage I was at. I still felt a lot of shame about being a COA, and also that sort of betraying my mum at that time.
And so when it did, when you started obviously getting, I'd imagine you got floods of messages, right, when it came out?
Yeah, but they weren't directly to me because it was just shared from Recovery Street. I started to see that it was helping people a bit. And also when I got involved with Nacoa, and I started, like you said, how much you connect with this story, it's just crazy, isn't it? You're like, you may as well be talking about me all the time when you talk to other COAs. So I started to see that it was beneficial for me to do it, and I was really pleased that I'd done it. The people that I couldn't tell were the people that I knew, because I didn't want them to sort of be sad for me or judge me as well.
Yeah, I really resonate with that. When I first started doing the work that I did with Nacoa, I didn't have social media, and I didn't want to set any up, because I felt okay doing what I was doing in like the Nacoa sort of tribe that existed, but I didn't want to, I'm going to use the word, come out to people that I knew. I wasn't ready at that stage. So how did you find Nacoa? Did you find Nacoa and reach out to Nacoa after the video, or did somebody
Yeah.
from Nacoa see the video? You reached out to Nacoa.
Yeah, I Googled it. I just Googled children of alcoholics or something, and they came up. And I emailed, I think I emailed their main one, and then got a message back from Hillary, and then just couldn't believe how just lovely Hillary was, and caring and accepting of me. And then we chatted on the phone, and yeah, and then very, very slowly, I think I started doing a little bit more, writing pieces for the website that you've made, the COAisathing website, and I think I did one for Mother's Day. It was a very slow process in kind of accepting myself, I think. And still, this is a funny one. So last week I did the film for Mum's birthday. I put it on Instagram and Twitter. Still don't put it on my Facebook. There's something in me that still can't share with friends.
All right.
Difficult.
Where do you think that comes from? What do you think that is?
It's still a bit of fear of judgment. I think, I don't know. I just, like you say, it's easy when it's your tribe and it's people who really get it. But I've still got a little bit of me in there that's worried that people do still worry about me. I had a friend call me yesterday and said, "Are you all right? You're sharing a lot on Instagram." And I was like, "Oh no, I do it now because I am all right." When you feel okay and you think, "I'm ready to tell my story now," but people do still wonder why you do it. And I will get past that, and seeing people like you, and I don't know if you've heard of Mark Lemon. He does a lot for child bereavement. And there's lots of people I follow, and I don't judge them, but I still fear being judged sometimes.
Yeah, no, look, I relate to that, and I've had people contact me and say, "Are you okay?" because you're sharing online. I think it's alien to some people in that sense. While we're here, I want to try and keep reading out these. So when I look over here,
please, because I can't see.
Yeah, and when I look over here, it's because I've got another laptop where I'm sort of following the comments online. I'm not. So when I look away from you, right? Don't worry. That's why I'm doing it. So it's true. They resonate so much to us about the videos. That's somebody saying that. Somebody said when Kerry said about the sound of the can opening, it really, really resonates with me. Yeah, I think that was the bit where my tears started coming. Louise, I thought that exactly. I'll never forget that sound. Yeah. So that's someone agreeing with Louise who said about the sound. What else have we got here? Me too. The sound of metal lid spinning on glass bottle gin still gives me shivers, and my mum has been dead for 26 years. I knew about the first film, but the first time I've seen it. Great, Kerry. I hear you. Bottles of Miller and Morgan's. The smell affects me. Callum Best has just joined us and said, "Yes, you too. Love both of your work." Good to have Callum. Good to have Callum here. And Callum, by the way, I really feel like we should do one of. He should become part of the series in the future. We'll do one with him. But I want to keep today about you, Kerry. So from that video, that was what did we say? 4 years ago? 3 years
5. Yeah.
5 years ago. And then from there, did you ever think that you would make a second video? How did the idea of the second video come about?
Well, Recovery Street were really lovely and really supportive, because I didn't even think I should enter at first, because it was about recovery from addiction. Well, I was recovering from my mum's addiction, so I was like, "Oh, should I enter?" And then about a year after I did it, the Duchess of Cambridge did a film screening of the last 3 years, so I went to that, and that was amazing. And again, they were so supportive of my anxiety, and it was just another big step for me in doing something I was scared of. And then they asked me to judge, so I judged for 2 years. And I just felt like it was making such a difference, these films were, because they were shown all around the country, and it was just reducing that stigma all the time. Yeah. And then when I moved to Brighton, the theme that year was my light bulb moment. And I thought, I've got to enter, because Nacoa were my light bulb moment on this huge scale. So I made another film. And this was called Understanding Me. Yeah. Because this part of my journey was, I kind of understand addiction now, and I understand what Mum went through, but now I've got to work out, like, my way in the world. What am I going to do with that?
My world, my life in front of me, a future expansive as the sea, a freedom as the birds I see, but prisoner to myself. Look at the lives that I have made, their chubby cheeks, they're not afraid. a masterpiece all of my own, but darkened clouds still loom. And in the night a lightning bolt, it screams and shouts, it will not halt. Your mother's girl you are, my dear, this will all soon end. My childhood was a blurry mess. Mum's drinking dragged me along, no rest. Poor attachment, chaos, trying to do my best and protect the secret of the drink. For every sip that passed her lips, to block the blows that were his fist. I felt it then and still do now, the blame it lay with me. Then cold with haste it came the wave, leaving just a mossy grave. So I wait for more with bated breath, for I worried the fault was mine. But then I come to realise, like a switch above those cries, baby girl, you were too young. In this there is no truth. So every day I tell myself, I'm not my mum, I have to delve to places deep inside my heart and be kinder to me. For when I show my children love and all my friends who have it rough, for when I feel I can't go on, the evidence is my friend. I'm the child of an alcoholic, true, it'll mean I'll always be there for you, sometimes too much at my expense, so please tread carefully if that makes sense. I'm sensitive, I people please, it can be torture if you think bad of me. I sometimes feel envious of your family and a childhood not meant for me. I hear my children's words so deep, won't let them cry, hold them when they sleep. As a mum now, consistency is key, they'll never doubt their love from me. I focus on my dreams each day, then work hard to make my life this way. It's not a fluke, I've made it here, just positivity outweighing fear. With each deep breath and each small step, I call my friends and try to accept that anxiety will come and go. Ups and downs are all part of the flow. My mum, my love, half of me is gone. I'll make you proud and I'll be strong. Never think you suffered for nothing at all. I'll be your legacy and help others when they fall.
Oh, I got to gather my thoughts again. You have no idea what that does. Now, before I put it over to you, I want to read a couple of the things that have been coming on. A couple of the people, I think, before we shared the video, were talking about the resonating of cans being hidden and hearing the sounds of cans. People talking about finding cans behind the sofa and stuff. Kerry has said, Kerry, meeting you has given me so much hope. You really are an inspiration. I can't believe the coincidences we talked about. My little boy turned 1 yesterday, and boy, I'm missing my mum. Feel so emotionally drained. Louisa said, that brought tears to my eyes, Kerry. You're so strong and inspiring. Rosie said, that was lovely. And Sarah says, so moving and inspiring. How does it feel to you to watch it again? How long ago did you make this video, Kerry?
2 years.
2 years ago. So how does it feel when
Yeah.
you watch that back now?
That one actually makes me feel quite sad still.
Yeah.
Especially the last bit. It's just very from the heart, and yeah, just shows how much I still do miss my mum. And I just want to be her legacy. I just want to find some good to come from everything that's happened. I can't describe the sort of passion I've got inside me with this. Like, when I talk to others about it, and when I come up with the next idea, and it's like nothing makes me feel the same. Just the thought that I could help the little versions of me and help other people like my mum. Because I had a woman message me with that last film I did last week to say, I've just stopped drinking and I really need to see this. And I think that happened with the Recovery Street. To have the angle of a mum watching it as well is amazing. Because to me, like, my ending for addiction, so sad, but to hear the ending for others is to quit drinking. It's just, oh God, I love it. Just, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, and I think, again, what your videos have a way of doing in, more so than I think any other videos that are done, particularly in this space. And I'm talking, when I say this space, I mean particularly children of alcoholic space. I just think yours have a way of just cutting through everything and making, when I watch them, I feel sort of seen when I watch them. I'm really, really emotional person, so I can't watch them too often. So whenever I see you've made a new video, it's like I'm going to have to try and put some time aside where I don't need to be or do anything after I've watched it. I think that was particularly true. We're not going to show that video today, but the one you made with the Lego recently, I think that was incredible. That's an incredible video, and I encourage anybody that's not seen it to go and watch it on the Nacoa YouTube channel. Is up there. I think the line that I just picked out, I wrote it down while we was watching that video. Then the line that I really picked out was that sort of made a lump come up in my throat was when you said, "A childhood not meant for me."
Yeah.
Yeah, that really struck home because I know. Did you have siblings?
No,
Do you
I've
have
got
siblings?
nobody.
Yeah,
I've got no family.
yeah. So for me, like I always had this battle where my brothers seem to be affected in a different way, and I know now so much of that's to do with, and you talked about it in that video, my sensitivity, right? And that you know, somebody as sensitive to me as me, and I know from knowing you in the way that I do, I know you're sensitive in that sense as well. We weren't
Yeah.
supposed to experience those things on that level, I don't think.
No, you didn't know there was a child. Like, people will never get that I didn't have a childhood. They won't
Yeah,
understand that I never was a child. Well, I
yeah,
was before the age of 4, but
yeah,
after 4, I was like a protector,
yeah,
and I had to be as well behaved as I could. I couldn't ever have fun. Even if I was having fun, it was in the back of my head, like, what's she doing? Is she okay? I've got to make sure everything's all right. And that's when it becomes difficult when you're older and you're still trying to make sure everyone's all right. It's pretty
yeah.
exhausting sometimes.
Yeah, and you know, that kind of not having a childhood, the realization that, you know, you never had a childhood. I think that's why I spent so much of my adulthood denying just how much it affected me, because the
Yeah.
moment that you admit it, you take away something that we can never get back. You can never,
Yeah.
you can never get your childhood back. And I do, you know, I feel like as a dad myself, and I wonder how you feel on this, and you mentioned your children and they're in both of those videos. For me as a dad, when I started to see my experience with my children and the ways that I felt, that sent me on another whirlwind journey of how did this happen? When I love my kids like I do, how
Yeah.
how was that not reciprocated in my parent? And that's a
Yeah,
lingering
definitely.
question that always stays with me.
Yeah, yeah. I always wonder where the bond changed with my mum, because I think we did have a close bond. From what she says, she breastfed me for a year. We went everywhere together. Where did it change? But I suppose that's where addiction creeps in. That sort of tops everything, doesn't it? That mixes everything up. You can't. It's nothing to do with me, which is very difficult even now to understand. Subconsciously, I can tell myself she did love me, but subconsciously somewhere in my brain it's saying, yeah, but she did reject you. It's really hard. It's just really messy, isn't it? It's all
Yeah,
very
it's
confusing.
and that's what makes it so complex. And one thing I always say is we often try and use logic as a way of dispelling the ways that we feel, and it doesn't work. So I will talk about the things that I struggle with my dad, and you know, like some of the feelings that I feel around it. And quite often people will say to me things like, you know, it wasn't your fault. Your dad loved you very much. You know, he never meant for any of this stuff. And I understand all of that logically, and I know all of that to be true. Even I know my dad was a good man because people I trust told me that, and I'm fully aware of the ways that I feel around it, and
Yeah.
that logic doesn't dispel
Yeah.
the
So when
feeling
people say
sometimes,
it
does
with
it?
kindness, they're trying to be kind to you and say it, but if you don't feel it yourself, you don't feel it.
Mm.
I remember so many times where I was put in unsafe situations that I don't feel loved, but also I know I was it. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
confusing.
it is confusing, and I think that's another thing that you do so well. And when I see you interacting with people online, I think that's why people find you inspiring in the way that they do, is because you have that gift of being able to hold space. So knowing when to say, I hear you, and knowing not when to hit someone with the logic of, but they did love you very much. Because I had all of that stuff. I had all of the logic that was given to me. What I never had is anybody go, but it makes sense that you feel that stuff too.
Yeah, and also just feel your pain.
Yeah.
Don't try and run away from it. The biggest change, well, one of the biggest changes, has been a lot, but has been having a bad day and going, I'm having a bad day and I'm going to stay in my pajamas and cry all day or put some music on. And then it goes. But the more I fight it, my anxiety gets crippling because I could never let myself be anything but perfect. I was like, I'm not going to be my mum. I'm always going to be this perfect mum. And it wasn't working. So now, and I'm honest with my children as well, I'll say, look, I'm just exhausted today, or I'm in a bad mood and I want to vocalise my feelings so that they can vocalise theirs as well.
That's incredible. I think that's amazing. You know, that your children are going to get that. They get that interaction with you, right? That's real break in the cycle stuff. I want to try and keep up with the comments that are coming in, Kerry. So I'm going to...
I love hearing them.
I know you do. I'm going to keep coming back to them. Forgive me, people, if I have missed people, but there's a lot coming in, so I'm just going to try and keep them. Might be okay. Maybe this is a question. Might be difficult to answer, but do you grieve the mother you had, or the mother you wish you had, i.e., without alcohol?
Right. I can never say this without crying, so I'm going to try.
All right.
This is the one thing that always gets me is I can't think of my mum without alcohol. I can't, because it absolutely breaks me. Like, to think, this is the one thing that gets me, is if I see a mum and daughter shopping, oh my God, the thoughts, like, that would be my dream. I would love to have gone shopping with my mum, or taking the dog for a walk. The simple things that I would have loved to have done. Like, she was so silly, and she would have been so silly with my kids. She was ace. When she wasn't drunk, she was amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really grieved the mum, and she was the mum that I always thought she was going to become. Even when she was going yellow and she was like really ill, I used to think, it's okay, she's going to get better. And I used to say, Mum, wait till we go shopping. I'd buy her presents and say, wait till we can go to the shops together and do this. And yeah, that is a really sad part of it for me.
Yeah, and I relate to that as well. I also relate to the, like, people telling me about how good my dad was, but me, I don't remember that. I don't have those memories. And I guess in a way that's one of the saddest things. And then, like you say, when I see a dad and a son in an amazing relationship, you know, our friend, friend of Nacoa, David Coldwell, you follow him on Instagram, don't you?
Yeah.
When I see
he's
him,
brilliant, isn't he, with his son?
When I see him with his son, it lights me up, man. And it kind of, it does what you said, where it makes me think.
You were quite young as well, Josh. You were young, weren't you, when you lost your dad? So you actually missed out on a lot of memories as well as a child.
Yeah, but again, there's nuance in that, Kerry. You know, there's nuance in the fact that I lost him young, so I missed out on a lot. But then also, on the flip side of that, he wasn't there being a raging alcoholic, for want of a better expression, in some of my teenage years, right? So there's, and as a COA, you have that internal battle, right? Where when I found Nacoa, I used to think, well, I can't be a COA because my dad died when I was 9, so it don't count.
Oh.
And I battled with that for a long time. You know?
Yeah. No one can argue how we feel. Like, it's just how we feel. But gosh, I talked about in my last video, if my mum was alive now during lockdown, oh my God, that would be horrendous. I really feel in our Facebook group for all these people who are saying, like, what their parents are behaving like at the moment, you do sometimes think, it's that's really tricky when you've got them. I mean, you miss them, but also you think, if you were here, I couldn't cope. I've got children now. I couldn't cope with looking after my mum and the children.
Yeah, and then so I battle with the guilt of feeling that sometimes, where in my head I'm like, the answer I want to give you is that no, I'm lucky he's not here. And then it's like, oh, should I be thinking that? Yeah. Should I be feeling that? But actually just, vocalizing it, and then having another person like yourself who's just going, no, I get it, right?
Yeah,
it makes
you feel how you feel.
You feel how you feel, and we missed out on so much of that.
Brené Brown talking about vulnerability and just letting it all out. It's just, makes you feel so much better.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jade says, you sum it up so well. So nice to have a feeling to relate to when you can feel so alone with experiences and feelings many go through. So you do a lot of, Kerry, making people feel less alone. Such people have all said that last question was a good one. Piers has picked up on a childhood not meant for me. He's just put, wow. Somebody's talked about how domestic abuse was a part of their father's drinking. Did you experience anything like that, Kerry, as a result of your mum's drinking?
Yeah, my mum's drinking came from domestic violence.
Right.
So when I was 4, she met a man who'd been beaten up in a shop. Within a week, she'd moved in with him, and within a month, she'd married him.
Wow.
And within a couple of weeks later, all I remember is waking up in the night and being thrown out my bunk bed onto my mum. And that was it, like violence from when I was 4 till I was 9, daily, really, to the point where we were locked in a flat. It was really, really all linked to domestic violence. And I think my mum was drinking to just block out the pain. It's, yeah, definitely a huge part of it. And I think quite often for COAs, not always, but quite often they do link, don't they?
Yeah, I think so. It's very difficult to... I think, again, there's nuances. I think, my dad was quite a chaotic drinker. It sounds like in a way that your mum got involved in a lot of chaotic stuff as well. There's also, I guess, the other part of the spectrum where people have those parents who, all of that violence and the anger doesn't come, but they're just not present, because of the ways that
and
they
that
drink.
can be just as bad, can't it? Like you say, trauma, it can come in all forms.
Yeah, and the thing is that in some ways, when I tell my story, and it's kind of maybe similar to yours, when you tell them stories that you've just told there, it's very obvious that there's, that you would have been affected by that. And sometimes the people that live with a parent that still, I don't know, they still go on all the holidays, there's no domestic violence or anything at home, but their mum or dad is drinking every single night and not present, then those people often get lost because they don't feel justified in feeling exactly the same. And I don't know about you, but so often people say to me, oh, mine, it was nowhere near as bad as yours, but I still, and they're almost apologetic that they feel the same way as me. And I'm like, no, trust me, it's the feelings that matter and the way that it made me feel.
Yeah, but that's where I think it was so important when we went to the House of Commons this year, because there was me and David, but then there was Callum and Geraldine, and all had very different upbringings in very different settings, and Camilla as well. But the effects are the same, and the way we feel is the same, and it's got nothing to do with money or anything, has it?
No. I mean, it's all to do with I always say the lasting damage is some of the things that we've talked about, right? That when you said when you work in a supermarket and you see a mum and a daughter, and that hits you right in the gut, and that, that's the kind of lasting stuff. I just want to keep reading. They're coming through, Kerry. They're coming through so quickly. So
I wish I
forgive me.
could see.
You will be able to go back and see all of this afterwards.
Cool.
Yeah, it'll all still be on there. Such a big trait for COAs is trying to protect and make sure everyone else is okay, even if it hurts you. Yeah, I think we've talked about that. They'll never doubt the love from me. That stands out to me. That's success, I reckon. Yeah, I love that. That's from your video, right? That and how you're going to take that and make sure that your children never experience it. Again, somebody's talking about being the protector. Piers has asked, did you fear that you'd follow the cycle? Did you ever come close to following it?
Well, no, because I haven't got any addiction in my body. If anything, I can't drink. Like I'm not sober. I'll have one or two, and I can't drink more than that. I can't let myself get drunk. I can't ever feel out of control. So that's probably where I'm different to my mum, and it's a fear. Like a lot of my friends have gone sober through choice, but I just can't ever let myself go. I have worried about becoming my mum in other ways, though. Just letting my children down. That's a huge thing for me. I always want to make sure that I'm there for them and I never let them down. And with that comes anxiety, and kind of I put a lot of pressure on myself to be that perfect mum, which I'm working on.
Yeah. And do you feel that pressure? Can that sometimes be overwhelming, that pressure of trying to be a good mum?
Yeah, definitely. Like during lockdown, I'm struggling because actually some days I'm not really enjoying it that much. And that sounds awful, but some days I just want a bit of space, and then I feel guilty because I'm like, I should want to treasure every single moment with my children, but it isn't like that, Joy. It's difficult, isn't it? This is a really difficult time, and sometimes it's okay to say, do you know what? I need a break. I want to go and have a bath on my own, and the kids are fine with it. But yeah, I do put a lot of pressure on.
Yeah, we do that polarization thing, don't we? Where we think we don't want it to be that bad, so we try and be the complete opposite, which is that there's never any bad, and then that can be as problematic as well. I'm not skipping questions. I just don't want to get too caught up. Just because it's not your fault doesn't mean it didn't happen. Yeah, I think that's a really important thing, right? That just because it's not your fault, it doesn't mean it didn't happen. People's put Alex has put, excuse me, so true. When people tell you how wonderful your parents are as people, it's frightening. Even as an adult, I question whether I'm right about my childhood. Did you ever do that? I know for me, I still now have that voice in my head that says I'm overreacting, that it wasn't that bad, stop making a thing out of it. Is that something you go through?
Yeah, well, until Mum died, I'd never told anyone that she drank. I'd never said it out loud. And I can remember the first time I said it, because I didn't think, because she told me it wasn't happening. And even though I'd find these hidden drinks everywhere and I'd see her drunk, no one else would see her. And so when I got the death certificate that said alcoholic liver cirrhosis, that to me was a really big deal, because I needed to be able to tell myself that it did happen. It's such a difficult, people can't understand the shame attached, and how when you stay quiet for so long, it's really hard to be honest about it, or even believe that it's real, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is totally. And I totally relate to that. And, you know, you feel, I've felt a sense of betrayal when I started speaking openly about it. I felt like I was somehow betraying my dad. And one of the big things Nacoa taught me, one of the most important things, was that it's not betrayal to speak in the way that we do, you know?
You can love them and still feel difficult emotions, can't you?
Yeah.
Have you watched the video I did last week?
I have watched some of it, but I can't, Kerry, I can't watch them. I don't, I honestly, let me just caveat that by saying, because of the work that I do on a daily basis, I'm like, my emotional sort of capacity is always being full. And so if finding the time to be able to watch it where it's not going to spill me over the edge and like ruin my self-care. But I did watch parts of it. And I think you should do. I think you should do more of the just speaking to the camera.
Yeah, because I don't expect you to watch it at all, and I completely understand your reasons. The reason I was saying it was because it was really helpful to talk to Mum, to kind of, because you do worry about this betrayal and guilt and stuff. Sometimes, yeah, it was really nice to just sit down and think, what would I say to her now? What would I tell her about what I'm doing?
Yeah.
And it felt like, actually, this is all fine to be where I am, and yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it got a massive reaction. And the amount of people I've seen that have watched it, and you know, it affected them in the way that it did.
It was long, but it was the most honest I've done. So yeah, I'm glad I've done it.
Yeah, I think you should do more of them. I like the sat in front of the camera. You know what you've got is that you've got that. I don't know who edited them last videos. It's like your husband that does that.
Oh, Adam did, but he didn't have time this time. So I was like, I'm going to do it on my own. I'm quite proud I did it on my own.
and I think they're both good in different ways. I think when you like that sitting in front of a camera and just sharing in that way, I think is really, really beneficial for people. Like, people will sit and really resonate with that, and it will really help them in a deep way. Whereas the other ones just punch you straight in the gut. And what I think the other ones are really good for is probably people that maybe have no idea about the whole COA thing and are not open to it, because it's 3 minutes and it's like, if you've experienced this stuff, it will leave you gobsmacked. Do you know what I mean? And there's no way you could hide from it, I think, when you've seen that.
Yeah. That's what I thought with the last one. It was more specialist. I wanted it to reach out to the people I was already connecting with, or
into your community. Yeah, because you're part of you're a big part of the COA community now, aren't you? If people have questions, then make sure that you put the questions like in the comments. I'm going to leave some of there's loads and loads of lovely comments on here, right, about you and people resonating to some of the things that you say. But I want to make sure that if there's questions that we can get you to answer. And I know you'll be able to go back and read some of these.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. Where do you see yourself going with this journey? So you've done the videos, you've sort of, in my opinion, established yourself as like, somebody that can call yourself a filmmaker, like a video maker, and a COA personality. And like I say, a big part of the community. Do you have aspirations? Do you have a sense of where you want to go with this and what the future might hold for you in that way?
Well, I'm at a bit of a crossroads really, because I'm not sure where to go now. I want to help on a larger scale if I can, and I want to learn a lot more. So I'm thinking by next September, I'd ideally like to be doing some sort of course or degree in something. What do you think, Josh?
What do I think you should do?
Yeah, what do you think I should do?
I think you would make a very good coach / mentor for anybody that wanted to make a start on their healing journey.
Okay, yeah. I did a couple of counselling courses years ago, probably about 10 years ago. And again, I got that feeling that I don't get with anything else, where I was always at the front of the class like, can I answer this? Can I? Yeah. So something like counselling or coaching, or I'd love to go down that route. And also possibly maybe writing some sort of book. Yeah.
Have you ever written a book? Have you ever tried to write a book?
I've done a writing course again years ago and really enjoyed it. I do love writing because I wrote that thing, was it Mum's birthday last year? Yeah. And then ended up going to the AdFam Awards, and I love writing.
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would like to do more writing, definitely. It's another outlet for me, but I just don't really know what's next. I'm enjoying my jobs for Oasis and Back on Track, and that's really great being able to do all that in Brighton. So,
and with the coaching thing, you're already coaching, right? You coach on a bit of a group scale. I'd imagine you get a lot of people reaching out to you, and you hold space for them, and you do all that. So you're already there, or you're certainly already on that path, I think. As somebody who's done that work myself, so it's probably not as a distant reality as you might think.
Okay, let's see what happens.
So watch this space. We've got some questions here now.
Yeah.
Hi both. What do you say to your own children about your own family and past? Do you address what's happened? I might have put that to you.
So, thank you. I'd always just said that my mum was poorly, and when they said why, I said because she didn't look after herself. I'd never really known how to go about it. But then when we did the Lego film, it was really the perfect opportunity to talk to my eldest, and he just took it so black and white. I just said, my mum drank too much, and if you drink too much beer, it makes you poorly, and that's why she died. And he just went, okay, and he's never brought it up again. And he realised why we made the film. He watched the film all the way through. I usually turn the sound down on things, but he watched it and he just got it, and we've talked about it again. So I'm really pleased with that.
Yeah. I used to say very similar to my kids. I would say my dad was poorly and he didn't look after himself, which is what I used to say, which was the sentence that I used to say. I've changed a little bit on it, because I used to, with my kids, I used to think I want them to really see the extent of how bad it was for my dad and what that meant. But now I'm much more of the opinion where, I want to raise awareness for my children and for people in general. But also, why the hell would somebody need to understand the deep pain that somebody like me would have experienced, right? If they haven't, then, people don't need to. So I don't need my kids in that way to know anymore, but I'm very open with them. So if they asked me questions, I would give them honest answers now, basically. Yeah. Do you worry about...
Yeah, definitely. I think...
Sorry, go on. No,
I was just going to say honesty is just really important. But for me, it's about telling them about my mum when she was at her best. That's what I like to do.
Yeah, that's good. And how old's your oldest child? 6. Okay. What do you think? I guess you might not have an answer to this, but what do you think about when they get older and they maybe start experimenting with alcohol? Does that frighten you? Do you have a game plan?
Yes, it does frighten me. And as they get older, I will tell them more. Yeah. I will explain more to them about addiction. Hopefully by then I'll be learning more about it and I'll know a lot more, and I will keep it age appropriate. But I think because we don't know that much, I think, like Gabor says, trauma travels through generations. I hope that trauma stops here, but also, is it in my family? I don't know. So I just want them to be aware of it. I want to be able to, and I want them to be able to talk to me about anything. I never want anything to be off limits. So I think as long as I can keep the conversation about anything and keep them talking about their emotions, then hopefully that will help.
Exactly.
My granddad was amazing with my mum. No matter what was going on in her life, he'd never be like, she would always open up to him. He'd follow her around the country when she was in trouble, but he was never like, I don't like that man you're with, or, you know, you just got to support them with their choices.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm the same. I mean, my eldest daughter's 14 now, so she's sort of mixed, you know, there's people her age that are God, if I think of the things I was doing at 14.
I know, I was just thinking that.
She's certainly not doing what I was doing, so I'm happy in that sense. But like you, I just hope that they'll always be able to come to me, you know. That's my main priority, is to let them know that how they feel is okay, and not to, you know, tell them alcohol's bad, but to say to them, look, here's the risks, here's the things you need to be aware of, and here's what I know from my experience.
I think you've went through a really good subject of it. Do we think that alcohol is bad, and is alcohol always bad? And I can remember when you asked that question, and I was like, oh yes, but it isn't, and for a lot of people it isn't, and people can drink very safely. And I think that's a misconception of COAs, isn't it? Very often is we are like, oh, drinking's terrible, but it's not. It's only a problem if it's a problem.
Yeah, of course. And our experience is attached to the nasty side of alcohol, right? And so we you know, when we hear about alcohol and we hear about being drunk, it naturally, as a COA, it stirs those kind of emotions in us. But, you know, for example, I know my wife drinks, she'll have a glass of Baileys here and there, right? It's not that it isn't bad for her, but it's, you know, the fact that she only has a glass here and there is no more bad for her than the fact that I'll have a tub of ice cream on a Sunday night. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not saying it's good for you, but you know, it's the misuse of it, and it's the trauma and the illness and everything that comes around it. For me, that's like the real issue with that, you know. And that's what I think. If I try and scare my children away from using it, then I'll push them into using it. So it's better to be open and honest. Kim says, I completely resonate with trying to be the perfect parent and anxiety it creates. How do you deal with this, and how do you practice self-compassion? Great question, by the way.
Oh, just being honest. I think you've always got to just keep thinking to yourself, am I being honest now, and am I being kind to myself? Am I allowed a bad day? Yes, I am. Am I stressed with the kids today? Yeah, I'll tell them, like, just try it a little bit. Don't like offload to your kids, but just try talking to them a bit about how you're feeling. You might be surprised. If I say I'm having a bad day, my children now will say, why don't you do this, mummy? And they'll help me in the way that I help them. And we kind of can look after each other. And I don't know, I just think you've got to, it's a very long process, but each time you feel like you're beating yourself up, just try and be a little bit kinder. Think how you would talk to your friends, and think where this comes from. Look at the little you. I talk about the little me a lot at the moment, but think, why are you feeling so triggered now? What's happening? Okay, let's see, how can we look after you? What can I do today that's going to help me?
Yeah, and I'm with you. I think the conscious parenting is the most important thing. The one thing I would say along the line of self-compassion that I do is, if you get parenting right 30% of the time, then you're doing really, really well. So stop shaming yourself for the 70%, because everyone's rubbish at it 70% of the time. I think if you get it right 30% of the time, then I personally think you're doing really, really well. I also be open with myself to the mistakes that I make, and I try to make sure that, what would I say to somebody that I cared about if they did this with their kids, right? If they, I don't know, if I get a bit angry, sometimes I raise my voice, and I never want to do that, but you know, I do it a lot. So not a lot, but I do it, you know, once is too much in my mind, so then I shame myself. So I just have to have that compassion. And then, you know, my daughter's 14 years old now, and she knows the work that I do. So sometimes if I tell her she can't do something, she says to me, that's affecting my mental health, Dad. What are you going to do about that? So if you think it's hard when they're young, wait till they get to teenagers and they've seen you talking about unpacking emotions and stuff like that, and they start chucking it in your face.
Sometimes I think we're triggered because we think that our child feels how we felt. So if I raise my voice, and they get upset. I'm like, oh no, I'm traumatizing them. They're feeling how I felt when I was little, but I went through something completely different. And yeah, so look at the actual situation rather than the feeling it's creating sometimes, because it
Yeah, I
might
love
not be
that.
accurate.
Yeah, really like that. I really like that. And know that everyone's going through the same, and that we all think that we're not very good at it. I think that's
Yeah,
really
chat to your
important.
friends. They'll all tell you they're losing it at home as well.
Yeah,
Everybody's struggling at the moment.
yeah. So Alex has said, do you struggle with parenting at all? I guess this kind of feeds into what's just been asked here. I love my children so much, but I struggle with showing affection.
No, I don't struggle with showing affection, but I do always have it in my mind, am I showing enough? It's just, probably judge everything that I do. Did I kiss them goodnight? Did I do enough stories? Was I present? I'm always worried if I'm present enough. Am I in the room? Am I on my phone too much?
Yeah.
Am I thinking about other things? For me, I worry that, I think when I'm struggling, I'm not always present. I know you've talked about this before. It's, that's what I worry about more than I'm very affectionate, but sometimes I can be a bit somewhere else in my head.
Yeah. I relate to
and that connection. That connection is so important to me. Just feeling that connection with them each day, and not feeling like they can't speak to me.
Yeah, I kind of relate to what Alex, was it Alex? Yeah, Alex. I relate to what Alex has said in terms of showing that emotion. I'm very good at sort of externally showing it, but sometimes that whole struggling with being present thing, sometimes I always say that my trauma plays out in my relationship. So sometimes I'm very good at showing my affection to them on an intellectual level, but actually ridding myself of everything so that I'm present enough to be in the moment with them is something that I sometimes struggle with, and it's easy to shame myself for that. And I think that's probably the thing that I shame myself about the most. So, but like you, I think the advice that you've given there is great, because it just gives you something to focus on. What can I do? You know, what's controllable? What things can I do that are going to benefit and are going to, make me feel less bad about the ways that I am. Is this a question? My lived experience has made me a more compassionate and understanding social worker. I loved working as an addiction counsellor. Amazing. Everything you do makes so much difference, Kerry. It comes from the heart. This has been powerful to watch. Thank you both. And everybody that's left the lovely comments that you've left for Kerry. Kerry will go back and watch all of these as well.
Just go back to that last comment about saying she loves her job. I think COAs are amazing. They're amazing humans with superpowers. That sensitivity and the ability to read other people, and it can be difficult at times, but I think you look at our tribe, everybody is so lovely and so caring, and I think we've got to look at the positives to come from how we feel now.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Deborah said, Kerry and Josh, will you write a book for children?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. I don't want to overcommit
I'm up for it.
so publicly, but I do. Listen, there's a book. There's a book. Oh my God, I should know this as an ambassador for Nacoa. Kerry, help me out. Do you know about the book that's just recently come out? No, you don't. Peers will be watching.
I do.
Oh, you do? Go on then, tell us about it.
Do you mean the new one by Jane?
Yes, I do, yeah.
Yeah, that one is
what's it called?
Peers, what's it called? Hang on. Something Nell.
What is it?
Lockdown Nell.
Lockdown Now, right. There you go. Peers.
It is amazing.
Yeah, it is amazing. And Peers will link that in the comments now, Deborah, so you can see. The book probably always exists.
I think everybody needs to listen to that. People should listen to that. If you listen to Jane's voice, the way she reads is just outstanding. Yeah. I laughed and then I cried and then I had like flashbacks. She's just, when she talked about things like the knots in her hair and how she held her mum's hand and these little things that, you say like the noise of the can, she puts these little details in that are just so spot on.
Yeah. And the Nacoa account has posted the Jasper's Wisp and Lockdown Now. I'm assuming Piers is on the Nacoa account, which is great. I'll read a comment here that says, I reckon the way you talk to your kids sounds brilliant, Kerry. You seem to recognise how able they are and don't look down on them simply as children. You accept them as people. Yeah, I think that's really important, right? Would you
Oh,
agree
who
with
said that?
that?
Who said that? Just out of interest.
Dave, I don't know how to say Dave, Ashthorpe. I hope I've said your name right, Dave.
Oh, it's no one I know. It's not anyone I know. Since babies, I've always said, and I say to my husband, like, talk to them how you'd like to be talked to.
Yeah.
Don't just say, we're doing this. Even like when I used to change my daughter's nappy, I'd say, we're going to change your nappy now. I'm going to wipe your face. I've always tried to talk to them on the same level, not think of them as, you're the child, I'm the adult, because I want them to have their own minds and be, like my daughter's very strong-minded. And although it's tricky to look after sometimes, I'm glad. I want her to do what she wants to do in life and be strong and determined.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I do think we have actually a problem, to go slightly off topic, I guess. But oh, by the way, Dave's just highlighting. You do know Dave. Dave makes the cats.
Oh, look behind me!
And he's saying it's behind you.
There,
he's saying it's behind you.
Sorry, Dave.
Yeah,
I love my cats.
I was going to correct you and say that you will know Dave. If I said Dave the cat maker, you would know. Yeah, but sorry, yeah, I do think, you know, we're not very good at seeing children as being little humans. We see them as like something that's there to be taught something. Kerry, we've been going for over an hour now. Do you know that?
No way, really?
Yeah,
I've loved it, Josh. I love it.
Yeah, we're an hour and 1 minute so far. So I think we should probably, because we want to put this video on YouTube as well. So I want to make it sort of a very shareable and watchable content. So maybe we should start wrapping it up now. I've already asked you, you know, some of your ambitions and where you want to go. Let's think of a nice question or two to answer this. Here's one. What would you say to a child now? A child, I'm talking under 16 years old, that may be living with an alcoholic parent or two. What would you say to them?
Okay. I would say take the first step. So don't think too far ahead of what's going to happen to you and your family. Just have a look somewhere. Just do a little bit of research. Just look on the Nacoa website. Just pick up the phone. Just do one thing. So locally, working with Back on Track, we did a live last night. I wasn't on it. I was just helping organise it. But I'm always trying to get the message out of, it doesn't mean your family's going to be split up. If you get if your parent gets help, it can help your whole family. It doesn't have to mean that you're going to be removed, because that was always a big fear of mine when I was little. I can never speak out because I'll be taken off my mum and I'll be in trouble. And also, if you don't want to speak out, if you don't want to get any help for your family, you don't have to. Just ring Nacoa and let them just chat to you. Because I remember one of the biggest things I read with Nacoa is that even when the child's in a really scary situation, Nacoa can show them how to look after themselves and how to find ways of making the situation less scary. So if they're in a house and the parents are fighting downstairs, they might read them a story or talk to them about a hobby they've got. They might get them writing poems. So just letting them be children for a little while. So yeah, just reach out a little bit. Just tell one person you feel safe with if you feel able to.
Amazing. I think that's an incredible piece of advice, especially to put them towards Nacoa. Nacoa being as incredible as we both know that it is. Is there anything else? Let me just offer you the space to say anything that you might want to say that you feel like you haven't, or a way that you think would be nice to conclude what has been an amazing hour.
No, just all the people listening that already know me, just thank you for letting me be more and more myself. Because over the last 2 years, I think I used to sell clothing, which helped me tell my story a bit. I don't do that anymore. Now I'm just completely honest, and I did worry so much about being judged. But actually, it's just really helping others. So just thank you to everyone for their support, for letting me do this and not trying to fix me anymore. Just let me be me.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, and I guess I'll wrap up by saying I think it's incredible what you've been able to achieve for yourself personally, but the inspiration and the help and the support that you freely give to other people in this space, you probably won't be aware of how far reaching it is, and think of the ripple effects as well, Kerry, of some of the things that you've done, those videos, you know, you talked about a parent saying she just stopped drinking and she wasn't going to pick back up because of that video. If you could go through that one family of the generations that might change because of that. Yeah. So just understanding, you know, that's a ripple effect from one person. Then you think about everybody else within the COA group and everybody that sees the content that you've done. I just want to really commend you for doing what you do and what you've been able to do and what you continue to do, because it will be literally changing people's lives, and then because of the cycles that we know about, rewriting history, right? So I hope that you know that. I hope that you're aware of that. I thank everybody that's participated in the comments today. There's been loads of interaction. I'd encourage you, Kerry, to go and read everything that's been in there. We'd have been here hours if I just read out every nice thing that everybody said. So make sure you go and see that. And then just so that you all know, these lunchtime lives are going to become a thing now. We're going to be doing these pretty regularly, getting some different people involved and some different guests on to talk about it. And until next time, we'll leave it there.
Can I just say one thing?
You can say as much as you want, Kerry. Go on.
Josh, most of this change has been because of you. So check out Josh's YouTube, because honestly, everything you say, I'm just like, oh, I get it now. I get it. So please, honestly, thank you so much, Josh, for everything that you've done to get me to this point. And everyone check out Josh as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Kerry.
Okay.
We'll
Thank you
see
very
everybody
much.
soon.